Okay, let's be honest. Have you ever heard the words group project and just groaned? Yeah, me too. Well, if that sounds familiar, you're going to want to stick around. Today, we're diving into a super cool technique called the Jigsaw Method. It's designed to make collaboration actually work. You know the drill, right? It's that classic group project where one person does all the work, the hero, a couple of people just kind of coast, and you spend more time sending just checking in emails than actually learning anything. It's so frustrating. But here's the thought. What if the problem isn't the people in the group, but the way the group is set up? And that's exactly where the Jigsaw Method comes in. A social psychologist named Elliot Aronson came up with this back in 1971, and the idea is, honestly, brilliant in its simplicity. You take a big topic, you break it into smaller pieces, and then each person in a group becomes a master of just one of those pieces. Then, and this is the key, they have to teach it to everyone else. It's literally like a jigsaw puzzle, which is the perfect name for it, right? At the start, nobody has the full picture. Everyone's holding just one essential piece. And the only way to see that complete image, the whole shebang, is for every single person to share their piece of the puzzle and help put it all together. Okay, so you're probably wondering, how does this actually play out? Let's break it down. It all kicks off with phase one, the home groups. These are kind of like the empty frames for each of your jigsaw puzzles. Now, this setup here is absolutely crucial. First, you put everyone into their home groups. Then, you take the main topic, let's say it's a chapter in a history book, and you chop it up into the same number of pieces as you have people in each group. So if you've got 4 people in a group, you need 4 chunks of content. Simple as that. Each person gets assigned just one chunk to really dive into. So if you look here, you can see how it's laid out. In home group 1, student A gets chunk 1, student B gets chunk 2, and so on down the line. And you can see that same pattern gets repeated in home group 2, home group 3, all of them. Right now, everyone's just flying solo, reading their section and getting a feel for their one piece of the puzzle. All right, after everyone's had some time to study on their own, we get to what I think is the most powerful part of this whole method. This is phase 2, the expert groups. This is where the real deep learning happens, where mastery is built. Okay, so now things get shuffled around, and this is where it gets really clever. All the students who are studying chunk 1, one from each of those different home groups, they now get together and form a brand new group. And the same thing happens for everyone who had chunk 2, chunk 3, and so on. These new groups are called the expert groups, and their one and only job is to become the absolute masters of that single piece of content. And I want to be clear. This isn't just a casual get-together to study. No way. The whole point of the expert group is to make sure every single person in it is ready and confident enough to go back and teach their section. So they're going to compare their ideas, debate different points, clear up any misconceptions. They'll basically iron out all the wrinkles until every single one of them feels like a genuine expert on that topic. So now we have all these newly minted experts. What happens next? Well, it's time for phase 3. Assembling the knowledge. This is where they finally get to build the full picture. Everybody has back their original home groups to share what they've mastered. So once they're back in their home groups, each expert takes a turn presenting their piece of the puzzle. And this is where the magic really happens. You know that saying, the best way to learn something is to teach it? That's exactly what's going on here. It's not a boring lecture, it's a real conversation. As one person teaches, the others are listening, asking questions, and together, they start connecting all the dots. Until, bam, the whole big picture becomes clear. But what makes this whole thing stick? What stops people from slacking off? Well, here's the secret sauce: individual accountability. At the very end, there's an assessment, like a quiz or a test, that covers all of the material, not just your piece, but every single piece. This is huge, right? It means you have to teach your part really well, but you also have to pay super close attention when your teammates are teaching theirs. Everyone depends on everyone else. Okay, so the Jigsaw Method is pretty brilliant, but like any good strategy, it's good to know about a few variations and how to troubleshoot some common bumps in the road. The original method has actually evolved a bit. Back in 1986, a guy named Robert Slavin came up with something called Jigsaw 2. It adds another really interesting layer. So you still get your own individual score on the test. But then, all the scores from your home group get averaged together to create a team score. This adds a little bit of friendly competition between groups and gives everyone an even bigger incentive to make sure their teammates really get it.
Right, so I can already hear the practical question a lot of you might be asking. This sounds great, but what if my class doesn't divide up perfectly? You've got 23 students, you want groups of 5. What do you do with those 3 leftover people? It's a super common problem.
Thankfully, the fixes are actually pretty simple. If your groups are uneven, you just double up. You assign the same content chunk to 2 students in the same group. They can become co-experts and present together. And what about the other common issue? What if someone is just not a very confident presenter? Well, that's what the expert group is for. It's literally their job as a team to make sure everyone is prepped and ready to teach before they go back to their home group. When you boil it all down, it comes back to this one powerful idea. The Jigsaw Method creates this amazing balance between individual responsibility and the success of the whole group. It turns every single person into both a teacher and a learner. And it totally solves that classic freerider problem, because now everyone's contribution isn't just helpful, it's absolutely essential. So at the end of the day, the Jigsaw Method is all about turning passive learning into something active, engaging, and collaborative. It builds genuine accountability and, just as importantly, communication skills. The real question isn't if it works, because it does. The question is, how could you use this simple, elegant puzzle to build knowledge in your world? Maybe in your classroom, your study group, or, hey, maybe even with your team at work.